It's not that we as humans don't understand right from wrong. It's that we use circumstances to justify the behaviors. So when we commit acts of lying, cheating, stealing, violence against other humans, we are typically using circumstances that relate in our minds to survival to justify those acts. Now, we know these are wrong, and most of us will feel guilt from these. If not immediately, eventually through reflection, we will accept that it was indeed wrong and hurt somebody else. Now, the push-pull that we're feeling right now is from world leaders enabling poor behaviors and contributing to the acceptance of these poor behaviors. For instance, sexual immorality, feeding into the racial tensions that are plaguing the United States, and then creating artificial shortages on resources that make survival in the economy very difficult. Now, the idea here is that leaders understand when survival is difficult or when a civilian base does not trust their leadership or the rules that govern them, that civilians will start to justify immoral behaviors. And the idea is to create as much distraction from the immoral behaviors that civilians will start to justify, which keeps civilians distracted on the behaviors that they themselves are acting out. Now, this is where we as Americans have to ask ourselves, why are the racial tensions in America getting worse? Why are the male and female dynamics in the country getting worse? Why is the middle ground between Republicans and Democrats so far distant at this moment in time? And we have to recognize that it's because this is an intentional game of dividing the country and separating the country from being in that middle ground where we can be civil, respectful, and kind to one another. No matter how difficult it gets, we must remain moral and refrain from justifying the immoral behaviors that destroy the fabric of civilization. Because as we recognize one person behave immorally and then we justify our own, this just hurts civilization and other people. And when we just do this in the name of survival, we must recognize that as civilization gets worse, survival also gets worse. No matter how difficult it gets, we must refrain from the immoral behaviors that destroy the fabric of civilization. One justification grants another justification, and eventually this snowballs into the degenerate civilization that we are starting to see here in America. We must recognize the government isn't working to earn our trust. The government, Republicans and Democrats, are working to keep us pitted against one another, which is why we must push, as the American people, for the dismantling of the two-party system of Republicans and Democrats.